What happens when two destroyers, one American, one Chinese, come within just 200 yards of a collision in one of the world's most contested waterways? The answer isn't as simple as they turn away. In fact, the USS Higgins didn't turn at all. Every detail, from unanswered radio calls in English and Mandarin to 4K footage captured by a Seahawk overhead, was part of a calculated response. This wasn't just about avoiding impact. It was about proving who controls the narrative of the Indo-Pacific. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Imagine standing in a sealed room as a voice calmly says, "Contact altering course. CPA under 200 yards." That room is the Combat Information Center of the USS Higgins on the afternoon of September 17th, 2025. Around the crew, dozens of glowing radar screens quietly traced every movement across a flat expanse of the Pacific east of the Taiwan median line. The destroyer was on a standard freedom of navigation patrol, moving at steady speed, precisely 18.4 nautical miles from the nearest claimed baseline. A routine mission. No alarms, no voices raised. Every watch station followed its checklist like any other day at sea. The purpose was simple: to demonstrate that the area remained international waters under maritime law. The calm lasted only until the Chinese Type 052D destroyer made its move. From a distance, it seemed another vessel cutting across lanes. But then its bow edged toward the Higgins and the speed climbed. 20 knots, then 25. The intent became obvious. A heavy gray hull cutting water at nearly 30 miles per hour was now on a direct intercept course. Behind armored glass, sailors tracked the acceleration with the SPY-6 radar, inputs updating every 10 seconds. Every new heading, every change in bearing logged instantly. This was not drifting traffic. It was a sharp turn toward contact. The bridge made its first call over open channel. A clear request in English. No reply. Seconds later, the same message repeated in Mandarin. Again, silence. The lack of response spoke louder than words. In naval encounters, silence is not confusion. It signals refusal. The Higgins tried 3 more times. Each one met with the same emptiness on the frequency. Meanwhile, the Chinese destroyer held its course, the range shrinking. 200 yards at sea is closer than it sounds. At that distance, a fully armed warship becomes a wall of steel closing in. From the aft deck, Romeo 52, the embarked Seahawk helicopter roared skyward. Its rotors beat over the Higgins superstructure as it climbed to 200 feet. The forward-looking infrared pod locked onto the approaching destroyer, recording the details in 4K. The angled decks, the upright gun barrels, even the crew outlines standing along the rails. Each frame tagged with a timestamp, each coordinate tied to a geolocation. Within seconds, the data beamed across networks, secure and irrefutable. This wasn't just patrol footage. It became evidence ready for briefing rooms and international courts. Inside the Combat Information Center, the process was meticulous. Voice logs captured every word. Fire control radars froze frames of the other destroyer's bearing. Console operators wrote times down to the second. Not one movement went undocumented. The SLQ-32 electronic warfare suite quietly scanned for emissions, confirming the Chinese systems were active. On open decks, sailors rotated the 5-inch Mark 45 guns slowly toward the sea ahead. It was not a threat, but it left no doubt the Higgins was ready if provoked. Then, at 3:46 p.m., the loudspeaker broke the silence with a firm broadcast in Mandarin. The Chinese destroyer demanded that Higgins alter course. For the first time that afternoon, a voice carried intention, not just action. The reply came back steady and clear. This is United States warship conducting legal passage in international waters. Unsafe maneuvers are being documented and reported. No raised tones, no bait taken, just statement of law and fact. The two destroyers now faced each other at close range, weapons still locked down, but every system at combat readiness. Neither fired. neither backed away. The physical clash never came, yet the signal was unmistakable. Restraint on one side, pressure on the other. Which raises the question, if encounters like this are carried out with such calculation, what larger strategy sits just beyond the horizon? Was this a one-time gamble, or part of a larger play unfolding across the Pacific? The encounter in the Taiwan Strait with the USS Higgins didn't happen in isolation. Just weeks before, the same warship found itself near Scarborough Shoal in the South China Sea. There, Chinese state media boasted that it had drove away the Higgins, presenting the incident as a display of sovereignty. The US account, however, was very different. Officials insisted the destroyer was asserting freedom of navigation through waters where claims overlapped. Two sides, one event, and two conflicting narratives. When you see those accounts placed side by side, the pattern becomes hard to ignore. The Scarborough operation foreshadowed almost point by point what would unfold in the Taiwan Strait. Looking back further only reinforces the trend. In January 2023, the USS Chenghoon had its own close pass, with a Chinese vessel crossing within 150 yards. That might not sound like much distance written on paper, but at sea, it is a risk measured in seconds. The Chinese destroyer charged in fast, ignored repeated hails, then held its course until the danger peaked. Crewmen aboard the Chenghoon had to judge every move precisely, knowing a single misstep could turn a close call into a collision. Reports after the fact described the maneuvers as unsafe, but to many watching closely, they looked deliberate. The similarities across these episodes are striking. First comes the sudden course change, then the acceleration. Radio calls sent in English and Mandarin go unanswered until the very end, if they are answered at all. Finally, the closing of distance. Not 3 nautical miles, not half a mile. We're talking a few hundred yards, close enough to see sailors standing on deck and to hear a ship's wake against steel hulls. Each near miss looks like the same template applied in different waters. That repetition is the hallmark of a gray zone strategy. It is conflict just short of fighting. The Chinese military aims for proximity that feels aggressive without triggering rules of engagement that bring live fire. The tactic builds psychological pressure on crews. Hold your course and you flirt with collision. Turn away and you give the impression of being deterred. Either way, Beijing can repackage the footage for domestic audiences and claim control of contested waters. With every approach, they push to see how close they can press before consequences are too steep. On the American side, the method is almost the mirror image. Helicopters launch, sensors shine, and everything is captured on high-definition video. The crews log every heading, every attempt at communication, every moment when a Chinese vessel refuses to respond. Legal teams behind the scenes prepare the factual record. Exact GPS locations, radio transcripts, time-coded photographs. These aren't just defensive moves. They are part of a larger effort to control the story told after the encounter. By framing actions through the lens of international law and keeping weapons cold even under duress, the Navy positions itself as rule-bound and patient. But the strategy doesn't come without cost. Every time a destroyer meets a close pass, response times shrink. Sailors must treat repeated confrontations with a mixture of precision and restraint, knowing that the margin for error narrows each time. Encounters that once would have carried shock value begin to look routine. This normalization is what makes the gray zone dangerous. It trains crews to treat unsafe patterns as the new standard. It dulls the urgency while shifting the line of what feels acceptable. That shift is not accidental. It is calculated pressure. These weren't accidental near collisions. They were deliberate signals. The real fight isn't being waged with torpedoes or missiles. It's being fought over perception, over which side can shape the story of the Pacific. Each intercept and every silence on the radio serves as a message to the world about who owns these waters. China is testing the line, inch by inch. The United States is recording the proof, framing each patrol by the rulebook. One side pushes, the other documents. So when the next too close moment comes, will it stay gray zone? Or will someone finally cross into red,